What's up, Peter?
What's up? Welcome, everybody. All 13 of you.
Yeah, our baker dozen of subscribers or people that listen to us drone on.
Exponential.
But we're excited to be back. It's been a minute, mostly my fault. But what have you been up to over the last few weeks, Peter?
Just parenting, training, enjoying some. I live in northern Wyoming, so it's can be cold and snowy still, but it's actually been much greener. And so I've been really enjoying that. I've been able to ride outside a little bit. So I'm super thankful for that. I've been deep in the cave for months now.
Yeah, the Wyoming cave.
Yep. Yep. What about you?
Trying to ride, train a good bit, but mountain bike season is kind of upon us, and so I've had quite a bit of travel with the team, which has been all good things for sure. And we have some more travel coming up, but it definitely eats into the at-home time, and administration stuff piles up.
I feel like the mountain bike season has been shifting earlier and earlier. When I was a kid, things didn't really, and at least in my world, didn't really get rolling until June. There were probably things that I didn't go to, but now it's like you better be fast in like March, February.
Yeah, it makes it a real challenge. Like we kicked off the season in February in Puerto Rico, which is super early. But even then, the Continental, like US series, shifted up a few weeks, and like that makes a big difference. Like a lot of these races used to be a few weeks later, and now they're a few weeks earlier, and it's no longer April, it's March. And like I said, we had this like early block of training. I think it makes it a real challenge for athletes to not burn out. You start racing in February, and then nationals is in July, but then there's all these other fun races afterwards, and gravel racing happens a lot in the fall, and then you had a crossroad, whatever. You can easily race 12 months out of the year
Yeah,
if you wanted to.
yeah, and it's like there's this double edged sword. Is like you want to be racing a lot because it's fun and that's community, and it's often why you get obsessed with this activity. But at the same time, it makes it really hard to like build fitness if you're always like tapering or doing race prep or recovering. Then like
Mm-hmm.
if you do a block of 6 weeks and there's four races in that, like you didn't spend very much time like building fitness. It's not all a loss, but it's probably not as good for you to like just do perpetually. You kind of need some just periods where you're willing to get slower for a little bit to get better.
Totally. And I think it also comes with like not, it depends on how much you care about it too. Especially like junior athletes, the tension between national racing and NICA, and where do you prioritize stuff. But like this is also true for any athlete is, like one, not every race can be your A race. But like you could also say like, hey, I'm not gonna have any A races, and I want to be okay at most of them. And like I think where people get in trouble is like, yeah, when they're trying to be in their best shape at all these races, like it's just not possible. And so that leads to, I think that's what really leads to burnout, right? Like if you can hold it loosely and like, oh, this race this weekend is like kind of my second workout, and I don't really care how it goes, and I'm not
Yeah.
putting a lot of stress on myself. I don't think it's a huge deal, but a lot of, I think an error I see a lot is people have hidden goals, and I'm guilty of that too. Of just like, oh, it's not an A race, it's not a priority, but like deep down, you're putting all this pressure on yourself to actually like
Yeah.
do well. And so like if you can't truly turn that off, and it's like, yeah, maybe you do need an off season for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah. Your body might be fine, but you don't want your spirit to be like way too tired or just like beat down by. You can't get hyped up too long.
Yeah. That said, I'm excited for race season. It's
Yeah,
here, and I'm excited to do some races myself this season when I can squeeze them in. I know you're itching for some racing yourself.
big time.
Get out of the pain cave and
Headed to North Dakota, bike racing hotspot.
hotspot of the U.S. for all things
There's
North Dakota.
more good bike races in North Dakota than there are in Wyoming, but there's also more people, which is saying something.
Yeah, I just wouldn't necessarily expect North Dakota to have more people than anywhere else.
Yeah. Well,
No offense to my North Dakota friends.
right. Yeah. Yeah. So we got a new structure to this thing for today, at least.
Yeah, we're calling it hot takes. Some of these might be hot, some of them might not be, but the idea is that Peter and I both came up with a list of three things, and it's more of just a statement. And then, at least initially, the other person has to try to explain what they think the other person meant by that statement.
Yep.
And
That's
then
good.
we'll actually get into what it actually means.
Yeah. Hopefully these are not too contentious. Don't burn my house down.
And if they are contentious, like burn down the comment
Yeah.
section.
Light it up in the.
Just not our house. It'll
That's
be
right.
great. All right, Peter, you kick us off.
Okay. This is very on brand for me. But the first hot take is bike tech is important, but massively overrated. Okay. Not a hot take.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think there's like a ton of, rabbit holes you could go down with that. I think people overestimate for sure the impact that tech has on their performance at the expense of doing the things that actually matter.
100%. That's where I was going.
Yeah,
And just riffing on that, I'm like, 2005 Nino Schurter is still killing me. Like in
yeah,
any race, on
yeah,
any bicycle.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, you could give him a Brompton, and he's gonna smoke 99% of people. Yeah, it's like this mixed bag because tech is so good. I think this is twofold. Tech has gotten so good, and accessible that now it's no longer like just the high end that does great. Like it's pretty hard to buy a bad bike right now. Geometry is really good. Like base level components are light years ahead of top of the line 10 years ago for sure. Yet people still clamor for the top end and think that's gonna make or break the difference. I had this conversation with someone one time, and I was calling out S Works. They were agonizing, like, oh, well, like I want to get an Epic, but like I can't afford the S Works, like so I don't even know if it's like worth it. And like the difference in weight between people will argue, oh, like it's the layup's different and it has a different feel. I don't think anyone can really feel that difference, and if they can, then they deserve it. Uh, but like they were agonizing over the weight, and it's like 100 to 200 grams
Yeah,
maybe.
yeah,
Not a lot, not multiple $1,000s worth. And I had them Google how much 100 grams weighs, and it's like 4 clementine slices.
yeah. Yeah, it's not much. Yeah,
Um,
less than a quarter of a pound. It's like
yeah.
the difference in your hydration from one day to the next is like more than a pound.
And like if, weight really mattered, like we wouldn't carb load or we'd
Right.
all be riding bikes from
Yeah,
the
yeah,
90s.
yeah. Or you'd like watch how much sodium you have. It'd be, it's just like backwards for so many reasons. But like, it's obviously something. Like, I don't want to be racing cross country on a 40-pound bike, but if I'm close, like, it's not the bike's fault. Like,
hmm
I honestly think even a 30-pound bike, like a top rider, could still be incredibly competitive on. Like the difference in equipment is affecting time way less than differences in fitness, like massively,
hmm And skill set.
and skill set.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Like you can be super fit, have the best bike, and if you brake hard into every corner and have to sprint out of it,
yep,
it doesn't really matter.
game
Like you
over.
can't express the potential of your fitness or the fancy bike. What tech do you think is most overrated?
Suspension damping, like I spend a lot of time fiddling with it, and I think there's a difference between things you can feel and things that make a difference. Like I've also ridden Rebas and like the low end RockShox shock and like the basic performance series Fox stuff. You might be able to feel a difference. Like the high end race day damper like feels better for sure. But is there like a stopwatch difference? Like I don't know. It's like hundreds and hundreds of dollars. I also think broadly, like if someone wanted to be competitive, Just like a tool or just like a mental trick I use is like I can buy any bike I want as long as it's like 5 years old. Get the S Works as long as it's a 2020. It's going to be $2,000. Like, and it's going to be
Yeah.
awesome. And 11 speed is still sweet. That 11 speed XX1 group, I have it on one of my bikes, and it's like it shifts better than my Eagle stuff. Like, it's so crisp and like sure.
Which works.
It works so good. And it's like I don't a lot of for mountain bike racing, your speed difference between as slow as you can go and as fast as you can go is like well within an 11 speed cassette, you know? So like running a 32 or 34 front ring and an 11 speed rear cassette, you know, what is that, 1042 was like totally fine. Like we thought it was the jam like 10 years ago. We thought it was like the best thing ever. And it's still good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, what's your hot
Thank
take? What's your next one? I think we covered that pretty well.
Yeah. I think fancy frames was what I would say is the yeah. I say that and like I have nice bike stuff,
Yeah, yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah.
But I think people overestimate the impact that like frame or frame material or like if you're gonna invest money, like invest it in like tires,
Yeah.
wheels, the things touching the ground or touching your body is
Yeah,
a much better investment than the frame or even like the drivetrain or the crankset.
for sure. Yeah. SLX is
Those,
like
yeah,
super solid. GX is
yeah,
perfectly acceptable for racing. Teams or Turk or whatever for whatever brand or S Works. I've heard the story, and I'm not sure if it's true, is that they make them all in the same factory and they put the heavy ones in one pile and the really light ones in another pile, and they just call those the high
that's
end.
hilarious.
It might not
Yeah,
be.
that's funny.
I could see it true though.
Yeah, if you know the truth, let us know.
Yeah.
Spill the beans. We'd love to hear about it. Yeah, yeah. I mean, like that's not making or breaking your experience, but like having really bad tires does,
Mm-hmm.
or bad brakes.
Yeah.
Put the money where it matters.
Or just maintenance.
Yeah, maintenance
Like
or
how
spend.
many people have the bougie fork and they've never done a lower service? You know, like so many people. Like
Yeah,
you got to do that like every 3 or 4 months if you're right for sure.
or like did the parking lot test and then never adjusted their suspension, so you have all the fancy adjustments, but you've literally never done anything to
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
to even capitalize on it. So like you might even have a worse experience.
Yeah, you might be better on the Reba or the Yari because it's can't
Yeah,
be that wrong.
right. Yeah. But I think that gets to something else is just like invest in yourself and like the education. Like if you're gonna have those tools and all the adjustments, like learn about it. Like that's great. Work with someone to figure that out. All right. Here's my first hot take. Mountain bikers don't pedal enough.
Okay, I could see this from two perspectives. Like one is like I think the listenership of this podcast, hey everybody, 13 of you, I think they probably do pedal way, way more than average. I think as you could be using that phrase, so like as your prototypical mountain biker out there, like really doesn't pedal like very much at all. They might think about riding a lot. They might read Vital or Pink Bike every day, but they might only ride once or twice a week, and like that's affecting their experience. If once or twice a week, is that kind of what you're going for, or just
I think
or
I think what I'm getting at is this hypothetical person could ride every day, and I would still say they still don't pedal enough.
ooh, well, maybe from an athlete point of view, you could be drilling down on like the importance of volume and consistency. That is a huge indicator of like your performance. Obviously, there's an upper limit, but not pedaling enough from that perspective. The other thing that the statement could be referring to is like if you mountain bike a lot, you're spending at least 1/3 of your ride like coasting downhill. And if you're everyone has some kind of like time constraints on their training. So if you're out there for 3 hours and you're spending 30 or 40 minutes like coasting, it's not an effective use of your training time.
Hmm.
Any of those
Yeah.
part of your?
The last one I think gets at it more. I think all those were true. It's a tendency I see in mountain bikers way more than like roadies or folks coming from the road. Anytime there is a slight downhill, they stop pedaling. They just coast. Like mountain bikers love to coast, even when there's nothing going on and you're well within your gear range to be pedaling.
Hmm.
They'll coast.
Yeah.
This is typical of like a recreational mountain biker. Not
Yeah.
everyone. Like I'm making broad statements here, but in general, I think like the recreational mountain biker, it's even one that's like maybe aspirational to race. Like a very low hanging fruit is like just pedal more.
Hmm.
Like just keep spinning and not just like coast or take a break every time you can. People do the climb, they get to the crest, they get to the top, and then they just coast.
Yeah.
It's like, well, keep that moving. But I do think that does pile up into training as well. Yeah, mountain bike ride. Physics says you're going to descend, well, at least where we live, or in mountainous areas, you're going to descend like a third of your ride, which is great. Like a lot of us look forward to that. But if you're not pedaling all these other little bits, it's like, oh, it starts to creep up from 1/3 to 2/3. And it's like, you've been out for 3 hours, but you only really pedaled for an hour, and then you
Yeah.
stopped and coasted and this and that.
Or talk. I mean, I don't go on very many group rides because people stop like every 3 minutes. It's like all the time. Like we need to stop again. But
Yeah,
I have my own issues.
yeah. No, I get it, and like for some people, that's like the most important part of the sport, and that's great.
Yeah.
I'm not here to rain on that parade, but like obviously we're always most of the time we're coming from it from a athlete or performance or progression standpoint in the context of this podcast and what we do. But yeah, I think like if you are interested in increasing performance, speed, any of that, like, and you've always been a mountain biker, like, ask yourself, like, do I pedal?
Yeah. The other, I think one reason people don't pedal that much is they're worried about like their energy output. Like you might tell yourself this narrative that like I have got this many matches and it's like it's worth the energy to spend those matches when I'm going uphill as opposed to like there are more you have higher air resistance, which is the big one. Like if you're pedaling and you're going pretty fast, like your resistance only gets harder the faster you go. But that narrative can be combated on by the fact that you have an upper limit of how much energy you can expend on a climb. Like if you had a rolling course, you still need to be pedaling over the tops and probably on flats and like maybe on the pedalable downhills because what's the limiting factor is not how many matches are in your match book, but how fast can you light them. And like if you were on a course with a long steady downhill, this is the thought experiment now, a long steady downhill and then a big climb at the end, you need to be pedaling on that long steady downhill even though like it's not optimally from an energy perspective. But when you factor in that you can't go 700 watts for 10 minutes, like you need to spend that energy at some point on your ride. So if not, you're just leaving kilojoules on the table that you could have been using to train or you're using to get to the finish line quickly.
I mean, even if you could use the 700 watts in the 10 minutes or whatever at that final climb, I would argue like if you coasted that whole time and then someone else just pedaled at 150 watts and they started the climb, like you're still going to get beat,
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
and so a little goes a long way. Like that's
Mm-hmm.
the other thing is like I'm not saying like you need to hammer 24/7.
Yeah, yeah,
I'm just saying like I don't know, like maybe just keep the legs moving a little
yeah,
bit.
yeah.
Like those little things add up over time.
And I think there could be an argument to like actually I always was told when I was road racing, like you got to spin your legs on the downhills because like your heart, like your cardiovascular system needs to be like moving fluids around your body, and like you need your legs to have like fresh glycogen in them as much as possible. But the analogy that I am going to bring is like I was working out. I did a set of intervals in the recent weeks, and my son was sleeping, and he got up and came down to like be like, "Dada, what are you doing?" And I was like mid interval, and I had to stop and then like be a parent for 5 minutes or something and get him set up. And then as soon as I jumped in, I like didn't do any warm up. It was like go. I hit the go button on Zwift, and like it wasn't an effort that was like at all out of the realm of like what I was comfortable with. But those first 30 or 45 seconds were like really hard because like I didn't have any blood moving. My heart rate was like 55 or it was like really low. And until that blood got moving, it was like, oof, like this is way harder than it would be if my heart was actually pumping. It's like, you think about like I want my heart rate to be as low as possible for a given effort, which generally is true in aggregate. Like I want it to be easier to do a certain power output, but when I need to do power, like I need my blood to be pumping. Like it helps a lot.
Definitely. Yeah, I think there's one like yeah, the heart rate. Like coaching is so hard. It can be so hard, like doing skill sessions, because you go from like standing cold to like all of a sudden I have to like demo something
Yeah,
and like heart rate's through the roof. Like,
yeah,
riding, I wouldn't like experience that,
yeah,
but like going from like seated at times to like all of a sudden I'm sprinting up something or doing a techie climb or whatever goes through the roof. But the other piece is like lactate and the metabolites you produce in a hard effort. They will clear eventually on your own, but they clear much quicker when you're doing moderate or easy work. Like that's why we do lactate clearance work. But it's going to clear a lot quicker if you're spinning in zone 2 or even zone 3 than if you just do really hard intervals and then just stop.
yeah,
Like it's going to sit in the system a lot longer and it might take, 10, 15 minutes for those blood lactate levels to come back down versus 5 minutes if you're
yeah,
spinning.
yeah, yep. Which is something to keep in mind while racing too. Like you don't need to get all the way off the gas when you get to the top of the hill. Like just keep
Keep it,
those legs.
yeah, keep it moving.
Nice. That was a good one. Yeah, you want my next one?
Yeah, what's the next one?
Okay. Most people have no idea how much fitter elite endurance athletes are than the average runner slash cyclist slash Nordic skier.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think one way to take this would be, the people will say the like quintessential, well, like if I had the time, I could do that. Like if I made different decisions, like I could be drafted or I could be signed or I'd be a pro. I think they grossly underestimate it. Um, the I think, and maybe you're getting at this too, is the difference might seem marginal on paper or like what you're looking at, but to close that gap is exponential.
Yeah, that's a bit of it for sure. Yeah, that's kind of what I'm getting at. Let me tease up a statement and then I'll have you finish the statement. Let's say finish it as if you're not John Cox, but finish it as if you're average cyclist, average runner, average Nordic skier. If Matthew Vanderpool is a 10, or if Matthew Vanderpool is a 100, I am a
85.
That's exactly, yeah. I think that's like I think you're thinking exactly how I think other people, or you're portraying how other people think in my mind. Whereas like I think the truth is like people are like at 8 and Matthew Vanderpool is at 100. Like it's
Mm-hmm.
like not close. Or like I think we just in real life, like you and I are fit enough to know how much better like the tip of the spear is.
Mm-hmm.
Like I can't imagine doing 7 watts per kilo for 45 minutes or whatever. Like it's never gonna happen. Like there's no amount of training I could ever do to do that.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's interesting because the fitter you get, and like, I'm not the most fit person in the world. Like, I'm fit for sure. Like, I know that, but I'm not world tour status or, a genetic superhero. But over time, you like those numbers don't seem like unrealistic or unfathomable. Like there is a reality, like when you're a beginner, like true beginner, like the idea of doing 300 watts for any amount of time is like, no,
Yeah.
not going to happen. And then, eventually you build up and like maybe one day that's your FTP or below your FTP. And then you like hear about these numbers. It's like, okay, I was reading the Velo News or some article about they were trying to like suss out the attacks that were happening in one of the recent road races in Paris-Roubaix, and it was like 430 watts for 6 minutes.
Yeah.
Like that's hard. That's super hard.
Yeah.
And I think this is where the error comes from with people is
Yeah.
like, I could do maybe not quite that. He weighs more for
Yeah.
sure than I
I could
do,
probably do
but
that.
like,
I'm much heavier than you, but I
yeah,
couldn't
I
do it
could do
after 6 hours.
exactly. So like I could do it on like a watts per kilo for sure,
Yeah.
like confidently, but I couldn't do that 10 times over in a race that I'm also like baseline pedaling, like upper 200s. Like that's recovery,
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's where it's like context like really matters. Like you can't just be like, oh, I can do it. And people love to do this is like they look at their maxes,
Yes.
right? My max 5 second ever is 1800 watts.
Yeah. Yeah.
That
Yeah.
means nothing,
Yeah.
you know.
It's not the end of a tour stage.
No, and even if you could do that, like there's so much technique and
Yeah.
positioning and coordination and
100 of the meanest dudes that you've ever seen trying to knock you off your bike, and you got to like squiggle through them and like pop off some unbelievable sprint.
yeah,
Like it's a
yeah,
different game.
and Vanderpool can do that, and he can mountain bike, and he can like run away with cross races.
Yeah.
I would give a lot to be good at one of those things.
Yeah. Yeah.
And he's good at all of them.
Yeah. And they're not mutually exclusive, of course. Like they help each other, but it's still insane. Like,
Yeah.
yeah.
But there's like 3 people at that level that cross over like that. And I'm not saying you couldn't give any of the riders in, the tour a mountain bike and they do okay.
Mm-hmm.
But not to the level that like him, Pidcock, Wout on a cross bike, like that's it's
You know who I hope lights up road this year is Alan Hatherley.
it's gonna be very interesting.
Oh man, he's so good. He's so
Yeah.
good. And we'll see.
Yeah.
I mean, he's a beast. So we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, it's really interesting the shift of quite a few mountain bikers to road this last.
Is Koretsky racing any road this year?
I haven't seen.
Yeah.
It seems like he's all in on mountain biking right now. I could be wrong.
Yeah, he's
But
incredibly good.
yeah, I mean, if Rax is any indicator of the future season, the special team is out for blood.
Yeah. Have you seen those videos that Blevins is putting out? Still spoke with things.
Mm-hmm.
I love them. They're like art training. It's like they're targeting me.
Yeah.
And you probably.
Yeah.
It's like, oh.
Yeah, it's really good. I think that's a whole other thing that we could go down at some point is the importance of other avenues of interest and not putting all your eggs in one basket.
Yeah, big deal.
Yeah. You ready for my next one?
I'm ready.
Simplicity is massively overrated.
Okay.
Or another way of putting it, people hate simplicity.
Ooh. Are we limiting the scope of this hot take to training?
This is in the context of training, but also,
Yeah.
as most things in the training world, permeate into other aspects of life.
Real life. Well, in training, I would say people, it's, I like using the analogy of like nutrition products is like people feel like they're getting more like if it's got buzzwords or really complicated in the case of a workout if it's like tons of different intervals like different lengths like kind of zesty things people like that they feel like they're getting a good value for their money when like the training stimulus that is providing could be provided with a much simpler workout and maybe more effective.
Mm-hmm.
And simple doesn't mean easy. Like, does not mean easy. So I think that's
Agreed.
where you're going from a training perspective. From a broader life perspective, I think people do the same thing. They want like some complicated life with a lot going on in like a bunch of different ways. And we might be better off like being monastic in our pursuits, just like live a simple life well within your means and be really good at what you want to be really good at.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I think you nailed it on all the fronts. I think I'll give a very recent example. This, don't get mad at me, but yeah, the nutrition one is a one for sure. Matt from the feed texts me more than any of my friends.
Yeah.
I'm getting texts from them all the time, like
I
just
don't know who that.
the feed website, like where you order like nutrition products. But
Yeah, yeah.
the owner's name is Matt, and like if you sign up for the promos, they send you text messages, and it's quite a
It's like a
lot.
robot, Matt. It's not like him personally.
Well, it's definitely not him personally,
Okay. Yeah,
but it's signed off as him. So
yeah,
I always joke that he texts us more than many friends.
yeah.
And this isn't necessarily throwing shade their way. I think they do great, and like they've given me support at times, and that's awesome. And there's a lot of good products out there, but most of the products come down to convenience, which there's something to be said for that.
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
mixing your own drink mix or making your own gels, like
yeah.
is kind of a pain for some people. But uh, this latest one, I think, is perfect. The story goes, he's touring the Invert factory in Italy, and there was a pallet of unmarked gels, and he was like, "What are those?" And they like, whispered in Italian, and then they said like Tade, and it's like Tade's special gel, right?
Mm,
And he eventually convinces them to like let him buy a pallet, and now they're selling them, right?
seems.
It's the same formula as the other gel. It's just
Yeah,
mango flavored and
yeah,
unmarked, but
yeah,
I guarantee like these are getting sold out the wahoo.
yeah.
But the first two ingredients are maltodextrin and fructose, and then it's like sodium citrate or some sodium source, and then a gelling agent. Nothing crazy at all. Like that's the same ingredients in every gel, and in the sacks of drink mix that I have over there. But people will go crazy for it because it's like, oh, there must be like something secret about it, but it's not
Yeah,
at all.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, marketing, man, goes a long way.
Goes a long way.
Like you sent me a video earlier about like table sugar, and I had the same conversation with the athlete the other day. I was like, "What's the optimal ratio you're seeing everywhere?" And they're like 1.8 or 2-to-1 or 1-to-1. I was like, "Do you know what table sugar is? What sucrose is? It's 1-to-1.
Yeah,
Like it's great. It's cheap. The
incredibly
only
deep.
con is, yeah, incredibly cheap. The only con is it's really sweet. Like I think that's the only thing it doesn't have going for it.
Sweetness.
Yeah, but I hope Domino doesn't catch on and start raising their prices to nutrition product levels.
They grow beets here in Wyoming. It's like a fruit beets farm. So I'll be safe no matter what.
Yeah, some local beet sugar. But yeah, the other point, like with the training, the simple. Yeah, I think people try to like overcomplicate it, look for the hero workout, but at the end of the day, it's doing the simple things day in and day out, and like that's not sexy, and it doesn't easily sell.
Nope.
Like and I have this conversation with a lot of people that come to me and like want to start working together. It's like for the first year we might not see any result. Second year we'll start to see results, and like like what, let me really sell you on like endurance sport. It's going to take 10 years for you to get to your potential, and for those 10 years there's going to be ups and downs, but by and large you're going to do a lot of really boring easy miles. You're going to suffer on intervals, and you're going to have to eat right and do all these things. Like none of it's hard, or it's hard, but none of it's complicated.
Mm-hmm.
It's simple. It's simple stuff. It's stacking bricks, but that doesn't easily sell.
No, it's a hard sell. The other thing, just a tangent this makes me think of is like, I think it's important as coaches to like model the behavior or at least be able to point towards well modeled behavior because whereas like people view, and there, like, I would acknowledge that, like, a program like Trainer Road, like, probably helps people get fitter for sure. But the bigger value and the big value proposition is like modeling behavior and being able to talk to somebody about modeled behavior, um, is way, way, way more important than like the recipe or prescriptive model of like, I'm going to do these 5 workouts this week and then next week, and where it's just like you're following a plan. And there's a ton of value in that, but being able to bounce questions, be like, hey, I'm really stressed, or hey, I'm sick, or hey, like, I don't feel so good, and like, this is what I've been eating, or like, this is how I'm processing this emotionally. Like, that, it's almost like following like a rabbi or something. Like, you just like, not that you're a rabbi or I'm a rabbi, but like, but just learning how to live in a particular way is like pays huge dividends, beyond like, I feel like the baseline should be effective workouts prescribed regularly. That's the baseline. But like, where the value really is like, hey, this is how you should be sleeping. This is what you think about. This is how you keep your stress low. This is how you, um, if you're a master's athlete, this is how you fit in these workouts like around the rest of your also very important activities like parenting or doing your job well, or like, those are just like adjacent thoughts. But I think following what
I mean,
you're saying.
a good example is our conversation earlier today when I'm like, thinking about, oh, like, do I need to change something up for, the stage race I have coming up in 10 weeks? And you're like, no, probably shouldn't, and like,
Yeah.
and maybe the computer would tell me that too, but like, it helps to like, just bounce ideas
Mm-hmm.
and be like, no, like, the impressive part is all the brick stacking.
Yeah.
Like, no one week is gonna, or one block is gonna make a big dent in it compared to the consistency over the long term.
Yeah. We should just talk about my last one because it's like right here as well. It's that, let me just read it because I put phrasing to it. Individual workouts are overrated, which is the same kind of line.
Yeah.
People will ask,
Agreed.
what kind of workout did you do to like be able to do that? It's like, it's not one, it's not even a month. It's like 5 years at least, in our cases, like 20 years. Like,
Mm-hmm.
of ups and downs, and some of that not riding, but like, it's 20 years of living in a certain way coupled with a few years of really intentional training makes a huge difference.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah, totally. It's not one thing, it's many small things piling up over time. I
Also, the
think,
motor in my bottom bracket.
yeah, also the hidden motor. Technology. Yeah, the looking for the hero workout's a big thing. The other thing, or maybe this is a pitfall, but like, we should do a pitfall episode too. Yeah, I'll save this one for that.
Oh, you can say it. You already teed it up.
Yeah, well, it's just like people either doing the same thing forever and expecting the same
Oh, yeah,
results
yeah.
or continued results, or the things maybe aren't going well. And so they go back to what they think worked for them previously. And just because it worked then doesn't mean it will work again.
Mm-hmm.
And this is very common with beginners. Because like, if you do almost anything from the couch to some sort of structure, you're going to see gains for the first year, maybe 2 years. The more advanced you get, the like more specific things become, but like, people will just like go back to like what they think works
Mm-hmm.
because it worked when they were a beginner, be it a Trainer Road or whatever. And it's
Mm-hmm.
like, I gotta move beyond or mix things up. But like, that's balanced with the not looking for the hero workout or forgetting the simplicity.
Yeah. And like, how I've been thinking about this, in relation to my brother, Mark, he won't care. He has started training a little bit. We're getting ready. He's going to do a little gravel this year. I don't think he'll care. But like, the difference between like his easy ride and his really hard ride is like not that far away in wattage, And like, if you're on the more beginner side of cycling, like, that's probably true for most people, is like, yeah, 100 watts feels like I'm strolling through the park, and 200 watts, if you're pretty fresh, feels like you're going to die, and like there's not that much room to like differentiate between 100 and 200 watts. Whereas like if you're more experienced or stronger, like there's a lot more room to like have very intentional training response. Like it's different. If I was prescribing your workout, 250 is way different than 325 for a more beginner person. Like they don't have that spread to play with.
Totally. Yeah. I mean, even traditionally you're programming off of percentages, and like that's how math works, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like a 5% range when you have a 100 watt, FTP. It's very, very small.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Versus you have, 400 watts. Well, big, big, big
You're
range.
gonna feel that difference.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, that's a good point.
Okay, I got a bonus hot take. This is based on my personal struggles lately. Not always, but my bike doesn't fit right. The hot take is drop bars are overrated for gravel racing.
Yeah, that's a hot.
You gonna leave me out on my own on this one? I'm thinking mountain bike bars with aero bars, just really narrow mountain bike bars, like 500
Yeah,
aero bars.
I mean, I think it comes down to what would your in the future. I think we'll be able to measure CDA a lot more readily, and maybe we'll even come up with a metric that's like average and normalized CDA, just like power. The question is, does that setup average the same CDA as drop bars?
In my mind, it does. I might be wrong, but in my mind, it's like I'm not in the drops anytime I'm going uphill, anyways, like ever.
Mm-hmm.
Even I think the big disadvantage is not so much the drops, but like the position of my hands. Whereas like a mountain bike bar, like because your hands are like this, like your elbows are naturally a little bit more out, opening like your arms to the wind. Whereas like on a road bar, like it naturally tucks your elbows in. And I think that's a
Mm-hmm.
bigger difference because when I'm trying to get aero on my road bike, I no longer go to the drops, like hardly ever. I just like prop my forearms on like the tops of my bars and like hold onto the horns of my
Mm-hmm.
shifters with like the inside or these fingers, and I'm just like trying
Right.
to like puppy paws slightly on my bars. And so I think it's like not so much the drops. I could almost cut them off like a hill climb bike. Like it probably wouldn't
Mm-hmm.
bother me that much. I'm not in them very often. But I think my bike, I just tried to get too aggressive with it, and my steer tube's too short, and I don't know. I'm like I'm well inclined. I'm inclined to do something kooky, so
Yeah.
go up with like a commuter bike looking thing and try and throw down.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I'm trying to think how to concisely say this. I'll use an example. So like this relates to trends in general, and some of these trends have been happening for a long time. Cycling is a very traditional sport, and change happens slowly, even if it doesn't feel like it. But especially on like the road, very traditional, right?
Mm-hmm.
But the latest craze is the mountain bike tires and gravel,
Yeah.
right? Bigger is better, bigger is better. All it took was Keegan winning on 45s for everyone to be like, oh, actually like 45s, and like Max is sold out of their like new tire, and like granted it's because Keegan won, and he's a phenom, right? And he said, which I do appreciate this, he said chase speed, not trends, in an
Hmm.
interview,
Yeah. Yeah.
which is very good advice.
Yeah.
Like
So you're saying mountain bike bars, aero bars.
saying don't chase the trends, and maybe curly bars have been a trend for too long.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. Yeah.
Watch out, Keegan. Peter Hale's coming for you with
Right.
his
Yeah.
mountain bike bar
Yeah.
arrow bars.
4.5 watts per kilogram coming after you.
It doesn't matter. That CDA is going to be so low.
It will be so low. Yeah. Well, it also reminded me of that ride we did going down in the Green River on that like nasty it was like you definitely would have wanted a mountain bike for that descent. It's like,
Much preferred.
yeah. And I was like, this bike sucks. I had a gravel bike, and I was like, I cannot even ride this thing. It was
Yeah.
busted. Felt busted. I was like, if I had flat bars, I'd be ripped.
Yeah. Yeah. That ride was rough.
This is a
It was
good
clapped.
loop. Prefer a mountain bike on that one stretch, but overall, it's good memory.
Yeah. Yeah. It was a good ride.
There's this one race I'm thinking of. It's called Pine Island Odyssey and Spearfish, and it's either very uphill. It's got some flattish, like gravelly, steady climbs. And a gravel bike would be preferable, or more of a gravel bike with like actual gravel bars. But a lot of like the decisive points are like kind of mountain bikey climbs and then mountain bikey descents. And then the last like 10-ish miles are on this like paved road down into the finish descent. And I was like, this could be perfect. Like, because I can put out more explosive efforts with mountain bike bars for sure. Like, it feels better, but
Mm-hmm.
who knows? I might try it. It's also cheaper.
Yeah.
Brifters
It's
are.
true.
I spent $400 on my Force Brifters. Not a big
I
deal.
did just see Bike Ahead Composites. They're making a prototype like Aero mountain bike bar
Oh, that's what I need.
situation. Will it ever go production? I don't know, but
Cool.
they did it coming out from a couple of their athletes that did Cape,
Oh,
and like
sweet.
kind of playing around with like that concept. Because most people like, especially like a long mountain bike race like that or marathon,
Mm.
like you put your hands over your brakes, and
Yeah.
like they were playing around with that concept. It looks cool. The other wonky thing that they did bike setup wise, and this kind of goes into the like maybe bucking trends, and I don't know if this makes sense to me, but they had custom -35 setback seat posts married to like fairly long stems, so they could run a smaller frame because it was like quote lighter and more agile.
Mm. I
That's a hot
feel
take.
like that would wreck your C-tube angle. Like, if the C-tube angle on the small is 73 and it's also 73 on the large, the 73 with a 35 setback in the back is going to like make your C-tube angle a 71 or something,
You're way
72.
back there.
Like, pretty slack. And I'm not, I don't hear that as I'm a fan of the steep C-tube angles. I think they're terrible. Like, I honestly don't like them at all. For It puts way too much weight on your hands. It's fine if you're just like doing one fire road climb and then shredding some
The
descent.
win.
But if you're out there for any length of time, you do not want a steep C-tube angle. But yeah, it seems like it would mess with your. I view that like C-tube angle seat height relationship being like really sacred, like something you do not want to mess with, at least in my experience. And that that also doesn't rub me the right way.
Yeah. I'll send you the photos
But I'm
of it.
interested in that Aero mountain bike bar.
Yeah, that part's cool. I
Does it
also
have any
just
sort
don't.
of like extension off the front? Like
Yeah,
oh, it does?
yeah, yeah. So like that's the main feature is like this like it almost looks like the pie symbol coming off the
Yeah,
front.
yeah, yeah. Oh, yeah, yeah. That's awesome. Yeah,
Yeah,
I would
it
buy that
looks cool.
today.
Yeah, that would be. I think that like it'd be great for some marathon races. Definitely for bike packing would be the move.
Yeah,
Any like ultra race that'd be great.
even Big Frog, like you've got all that single track and then big gravel
Gravel.
loop. Like you'd be in that position a long time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, totally. Yeah, and be way more comfortable than like like try to put like your hands on the inward of your bars and
Yeah,
you're like all scrunched shoulder, triceps start giving out.
yeah,
Yeah, it's interesting. Back to the like smaller frame thing, like
yeah,
that's like where I kind of like am skeptical
yeah,
because I don't think the weight difference between a medium and a small or large and a medium
yeah.
like can't be that much to be making a difference.
I'm fine with it more than you are, I think, as long as the difference is made up with the stem and not the seat post. Like
Mm,
your steering geometry is going to be whack, and it's going to. But those guys don't care, or girls. They don't
yeah,
like. You can ride a 140, and it's not going to break your body as long as you don't like stack yourself. But um, like the power producing position could be the same.
Mm-hmm.
I probably wouldn't do it. I think there's advantages to like a longer wheelbase too that are but so much of this has back to our rings back to our first point is like it ultimately probably doesn't matter. Like you're chasing by making that kind of change, you're chasing pennies when you're leaving dollars on the table. Like it doesn't make a difference.
Agreed.
Yeah. Word. I thought that was good.
Yeah, I think it's a fun format. I think
Yeah.
we'll do it again.
Okay. Yeah, we'll do pitfalls. Pitfalls next time.
Okay, sounds good. Well, thanks for the time,
Thank
as
you.
always.
Yes.
We'll do it again much sooner than our last gap.
Yeah. And if you're one of our dozen listeners, share it with your friends, but also send in a question or two. We'll give you a shout out. I listen to this other podcast where they do like dog of a bike or what do they call it? Fast bike or dog of a bike. We could do that. We could rate people's bikes.
Yeah, yeah,
We could rate our bikes and be like,
yeah, yeah. Judge setups.
my setup's gonna get some hate. I know it.
Yeah, with that massive stack height.
Yeah. Arne Peters. That's what you can call me next.
Sweet.
Good
Well,
to see
till
you as
next time.
always. Yeah, we'll do it again soon.
All right.
Peace.
Later.